my experience that in order to actually live into a process of life that is unfolding, that is evolutionary, transformative, and healing, I think that it requires some kind of an understanding of the dynamics of the source of our situation, the source of our habitual tendency to be contracted and in pain, and how we can restore ourselves. And so what I want to share is my understanding of this. And this is only a short period of time, so I can give you a very broad outline. So this is a kind of a conceptual model that helps. The intention is more than an intellectual understanding, to have this model perhaps link to your own experiences, so that anything that I share, I'm hoping that you can take it in and find some kind of connection to your own inner experiencing, to your own understanding of your life. And so that's taking it in this way, I think, is the best way that will serve what we're doing here. And so one of the questions that I often hear, that I've asked myself in the past, is, and that I've encountered in certain levels of teaching and having people respond to nonviolent communication, is and it's very simple, but it's how to articulate this. It's like, I've done all this work on myself, I've meditated, I have this understanding, and maybe that's one context, and there's still, there's still areas of my life where I'm stuck. And then that's one question. It's like, why is this? What's going on? I don't understand what's going on. Another question is simply, why is it that I'm experiencing this kind of contracted, sustained sense of myself that seems to be locked into these patterns, perhaps of fear, of anger, of disconnection? Why do I suffer so much? And so I think there are answers out there. There are many, many sources. So my own understanding has come from pretty much my whole lifelong journey into my own unfolding, my own healing, my own blossoming. So this is limited, but I'm hoping it's useful. So you can look at page, I think that's 18, gives you some kind of a model for a framework for these different dimensions of our inner life. This is the individual. There's 3 concentric circles represented in this model. So we start out with the center, which represents who we are, our true nature, the nature of the self as pure essence, pure being, pure self. And I'll just name the 3 dimensions, but then I'll go into each of them. And then the second one is, in the course of life, in living, it's our vulnerability, but in our vulnerability is our woundedness, the pain that we carry. And we carry that pain now that is connected to our whole life history. And then from this pain, in order to survive the pain, because when we experienced it, we did not have the resources to. The system constructs ways to protect ourselves from this pain, strategies to survive, strategies to be able to manage through life in ways that we can just live and sustain whatever we're able to. And then, so we create these protective and defensive structures to survive, survival structures. And we often operate from this limited stance. So those are the three, just naming the three dimensions. So going back to the central part, the essence. As I described before, our essence carries certain properties, characteristics, qualities. Our essence is unconditioned. There's no history to our essence. Our essence exists outside of time, but we live in time and space. And our essence is that there naturally, qualitatively, is the quality of love, is the quality of compassion, is the quality of clarity of call it wisdom. There's a knowingness in who we are. The energy expresses in life through creativity, through service. So these are the qualities of our being. And one of the qualities that I think is important, essential to this inner work, is that in all of this there's a purity to who we are. So we enter life and there's a purity. This purity is a quality of innocence. So when we are born and begin to live in life, and as we are children, it's easier to see and access this innocence that we are. Of course, then as we experience life in all our pain and the traumas and the conditioning, the innocence seems to be covered up. We don't act or live from the innocence, we act and live from our conditioning. And so it's harder to see. It's much easier to see the innocence in a child than it is the innocence in an adult. It's not impossible, but it's much more available to a child because they have not lived through that life experience that tends to cover it up. But the innocence is a quality that doesn't go away, it's just hidden, it's obscured. And for me, it's been a very important quality that has emerged to connect to feel, to experience, that in my healing, in my life, I want to remember and experience that it is my innocence that I am recovering, that I am restoring. And I want to say that the way I define innocence, that innocence as I'm defining it is a quality of being, it's a state of being. And it's different than the conventional definition of innocence and duality of innocence and guilt. That's a completely different definition, so I want to make that clear. Innocence and guilt with regard to behaviors and actions, the kind of thing, you're innocent or you're guilty. But this is using the same word, but it's a very different definition, so I just want to make that clear. So the innocence of our being, the innocence of our childhood, and I think many of us still feel inklings of innocence. As a matter of fact, I think that when you see a child, or you see the innocence of the natural world, or you see an animal, or a small animal, there's the energy, the quality of innocence in that being, I think, evokes and touches and awakens something in us that draws us to that quality of that innocent being. Maybe other qualities, but certainly its innocence is an important part of it as I experience it.